This is the story of Courtney Cox, a 31-year-old lawyer, who was shot and killed by her 32-year-old boyfriend, Jarvis Jarrette, in her apartment at a high-rise building on October 20, 2021. Jarrette then went on a shooting rampage from the balcony, firing at police officers and bystanders, before he was found dead, either by shooting himself or by police gunfire. Hello and welcome to Twisted Crimes. Subscribe and hit the like button for more stories. Courtney was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. She was the youngest of 3 children and grew up in a supportive and nurturing family. Her parents were both lawyers, who instilled in her a sense of justice and integrity. Her siblings were also successful and accomplished, and they shared a close bond. Courtney was a bright and talented student who excelled in academics and extracurricular activities. She attended the Westminster schools where she graduated as the valedictorian of her class. She was also involved in various clubs and organizations, such as the debate team, the chess club, and the Model United Nations. Courtney had a passion for politics and law and dreamed of becoming a lawyer like her parents. She applied and got accepted to Emory University where she majored in political science. She graduated summa cum laude in 2012 and received several awards and honors for her academic achievements. Courtney then decided to pursue a law degree at Harvard Law School. She was among the top students in her class and participated in various activities and programs, such as the Harvard Law Review, the Harvard Legal Aid Bureau, and the Harvard Human Rights Clinic. She also interned at several law firms and organizations, such as the ACLU, the Southern Poverty Law Center, and the International Criminal Court. She graduated from Harvard Law School in 2016 and was ready to start her career as a lawyer. She received multiple offers from different law firms, but she chose to join the Paul Hastings law firm. She was hired as an associate in the litigation department, where she specialized in complex and high-stakes cases involving corporate disputes, intellectual property, and civil rights. She quickly proved herself as a skilled and dedicated lawyer, who could handle any challenge and deliver excellent results. She was also active in her community and volunteered for various causes and charities, such as the Atlanta Women's Foundation, the Habitat for Humanity, and the Big Brothers Big Sisters. She was a remarkable and inspiring woman who had a bright future ahead of her. In the summer of 2021, Courtney met Jarvis, a man from Milledgeville, Georgia. They met through a mutual friend at a party in Atlanta. They hit it off right away and exchanged phone numbers. They started texting and calling each other and soon went on their first date. They had a lot in common and enjoyed each other's company. They shared their interests, hobbies, and goals. They felt a strong attraction and chemistry. They spent every free moment together, going to movies, restaurants, parks, and museums. They moved in together at Courtney's apartment at the Atlantic House Midtown. Jarvis was a charming and charismatic man who claimed to be a successful entrepreneur and investor. He said he owned several businesses and properties and had a lot of money and connections. He showered Courtney with gifts and compliments and made her feel special and loved. He told her that she was the best thing that ever happened to him. He also got along well with her family and friends, who welcomed him into their circle. He was friendly, polite, and respectful. He made a good impression on everyone and seemed to be the perfect boyfriend. However, it wasn't as it seemed. He had a criminal history, involving 3 arrests for non-violent offenses. He kept all this secret from Courtney and her family and lied about his background and identity. He then turned abusive and controlling and often threatened and manipulated Courtney. He was jealous and possessive and accused her of cheating on him with other men. He isolated her from her loved ones and tried to make her dependent on him. He told her that he was the only one who cared about her and that everyone else was against them. He made her feel guilty and ashamed and blamed her for his problems and mistakes. Courtney's family and friends noticed a change in her behavior and personality. She became withdrawn, anxious, and depressed. She stopped attending social events and lost interest in her hobbies. She also started to perform poorly at work and missed deadlines and meetings. She confided in some of her close friends that she was unhappy and scared in her relationship and that she wanted to break up with Jarvis, but he wouldn't let her go. She was trapped and terrified and didn't know what to do. She was also afraid of losing her job, her friends, and her family. On October 20, 2021, around 10:30 a.m., Courtney and Jarvis got into a heated argument in their apartment. There is no exact known reason for the argument yet. Jarvis then pulled out a gun from his pocket and shot her multiple times. Courtney fell to the floor, bleeding profusely. She died instantly, without a chance to say goodbye. Jarvis then grabbed another gun from his backpack and went to the balcony. He opened the door and stepped outside. He looked at the street below and saw a busy and crowded scene. He felt a surge of rage and hatred and decided to take as many lives as he could. He started to fire randomly at the street below, aiming at anyone and anything that moved. He targeted the people who were responding to the scene or passing by. He didn't care who they were, or what they did. The sound of gunshots and sirens caused chaos and panic. People ran for cover, hid behind cars, and ducked into buildings. Some of them called 911 and tried to identify the shooter. They were scared and confused and didn't know what was happening, or why. The police quickly arrived and surrounded the building. They tried to communicate with Jarvis, but he refused to answer or surrender. He continued to fire at them. They decided to wait and observe while trying to secure the building and evacuate the residents. They waited for several hours until they were sure that he was no longer a threat. They then stormed the apartment and found him dead on the balcony. He had a gunshot wound to the head, which was either self-inflicted or caused by police gunfire.
CBS 46 News has confirmed that this is the victim of today's chaotic shooting at a Midtown apartment complex. Neighbors woken up by gunfire that killed Courtney Cox. That shooting happened at the Atlantic House apartment complex, and police say when they showed up, a man on a balcony began shooting at officers. We have learned that man's name is Jarvis Jarrette. He died at the scene. CBS 46's Savannah Louie live in Midtown. In Savannah, you've been talking with neighbors who are still very much impacted by this shooting.
And not just neighbors, but I also did get a chance to speak very briefly with the families of both the victim and the suspect. They are both shocked and devastated. But even the folks who live here, who saw this whole thing unfold on the 21st floor, say the incident just doesn't feel real.
Terrifying for me because then I'm sitting in my bathroom, like, you know, it's one thing to, like, you know, do self-defense if, like, it comes quickly, but when you're sitting there and at any moment there could be someone that climbs in and you have to deal with that, it was harrowing.
A shooting scene on a balcony sending an Atlantic House resident into hiding.
He let off multiple rounds into the building, and that's when I called the police.
The resident, who didn't want his face on camera, says he witnessed a shooting just 3 floors below his apartment.
And I still didn't really believe. I mean, I've been around guns my whole life, and I don't know if the panes are very thick in this building or if, you know, noise traveled weird, but it didn't really sound like a gunshot. But I'm fairly certain it was, and then I went back outside and I saw him wave a gun.
Officers responded to reports of gunshots at this complex around 3:15 this morning. When they arrived, they saw 32-year-old Jarvis Jarrette shooting from a balcony. And there's evidence he was jumping from balcony to balcony before firing a rifle at officers. At least one officer returned fire.
Sadly, we could not address what happened inside an apartment, but it is our quick response that I think that saved our community from a much worse incident.
GBI reports Jarrette was found dead on the balcony from gunshot wounds. Inside the apartment, the woman who lived there, Courtney Cox, also found dead. Police say the two had some sort of relationship. It's not clear if Jarrette was killed by an officer. Hit a number of other units and even a water pipe in the building, causing flooding to units under the 21st floor and McCrae's Tavern, which is underneath the building. Now, coming up at 6 o'clock, we're going to actually be speaking with a woman who says a bullet went into her unit. We'll have her story coming up again.
The Georgia Bureau of Investigation took over the investigation as it involved an officer-involved shooting. The GBI assigned a team of agents, analysts, and forensic experts to handle the case and to work closely with the Atlanta Police Department and the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. They collected evidence from the scene. They seized 2 guns from the apartment, a 9mm handgun and a .40 caliber handgun, both registered to Jarvis. They also obtained the phone records and the bank statements and traced his calls and transactions. They also gathered statements from the residents of the building, the employees of the law firm, the friends and family of Courtney and Jarvis, and the people who were at the scene or nearby. They conducted autopsies on both of them to determine the cause and manner of death. They performed a full examination of the bodies. They found that Courtney died from multiple gunshot wounds, which penetrated her vital organs and caused massive blood loss, while Jarvis died from a single gunshot wound to the head, which entered through his right temple and exited through his left. They concluded that Jarvis was the shooter and that he acted alone. Courtney's family was shocked and heartbroken by the news of her death. They received a phone call from the police, informing them of the tragedy. They rushed to the scene, hoping that it was a mistake or a misunderstanding. They were met by the police, who escorted them to the apartment. They saw the body, covered by a white sheet, and broke down in tears. They couldn't believe that their daughter, sister, and friend were gone and that she had been killed by someone she loved. They released a statement, saying that they were at a loss for words and that they were grieving for their beloved Courtney. They described her as a beautiful soul who met a monster and said that they hoped that justice would be served. They said that she was a brilliant and dedicated lawyer who had a promising career and a bright future. They said that she had worked on some of the most challenging and important cases. They said that they would miss her dearly and that they would honor her memory and legacy. They also expressed their sympathy and solidarity with her family and condemned the senseless and horrific act of violence. Our deepest condolences to the family of Courtney Cox. May her soul continue to rest in peace.